Climate activists are infuriated after the Supreme Court's latest ruling limiting the Environmental Protection Agency's authority to set clean air and climate standards for the private industry. That includes BankFWD, a group calling on big banks to divest in fossil fuels. In a statement, BankFWD says climate deregulation is the ultimate loose cannon, an unpredictable variable that could introduce chaos into global markets and extend inefficient market failures around the climate change. BankFWD is co-founded by Valerie Rockefeller. She chairs the board of the Rockefeller Brothers Fund. Valerie joins me now along with Vanessa Fajans-Turner, BankFWD's executive director. My thanks to you both for being with us. Valerie, I want to start with you. What do you make of the Supreme Court's ruling this week that now limits the EPA's authority on climate standards?
First, Alexis, thank you so much for your interest and the opportunity to share our thinking about this. I mean, the Supreme Court ruling is such a setback because what we need to do right now is to have a high bar that's set in terms of regulations for companies and for banks, which is what we work on at BankFWD, and instead of the level playing field that we were hoping for and the banks that we have met with through BankFWD. Our website is www.bankfwd, it's BankFWD.org. So you can see the work that we've been doing with banks to encourage the acceleration of the transition to a just and sustainable clean energy economy. And the Supreme Court has, I think, overstepped its bounds and also made it much harder for government to play its role in, again, leveling the playing field. Instead, what the Supreme Court has done has given a free pass to the very worst polluters.
Vanessa, why specifically is this bad for our planet, and what action is your group looking for right now from lawmakers?
Thank you so much for having us. This action is really bad because we can't afford to be taking tools off the table as the world and science tell us that we need more and more tools to avoid the worst and most catastrophic impacts of the worsening climate crisis. But the ruling does actually leave several tools intact that the EPA can use for the power sector and beyond, which I think is an important message for all of us. In the public sector, parts of the EPA and other laws remain on the books. The public sector also is very impacted and has many avenues to take, which we are working to do. The ruling has potential to have serious ramifications for our financial sector, which has made several goals towards net zero commitments and more, which it will be unable to meet without support and enforcement by the federal government to uphold restrictions and quality controls on the fossil fuel sector, which now has this free pass to pollute.
Valerie, I just want to learn more about your group, BankFWD, calling on big banks to divest in fossil fuels. I'm curious how likely that is to happen. How easy is that for these banks to do, and the impact from the Supreme Court ruling on that?
Well, nothing about fighting climate change is easy. That's why we all need to work together. And that's why, frankly, if we started, 50 years ago when we actually knew what was going to happen, it would have been a lot simpler. At this point, what we are doing, it's a couple of my cousins and I started BankFWD just to work with banks to phase out financing for new fossil fuels. We have more than enough reserves already that they've invested in and have underwritten and are still funding that is going to destroy our climate. So if we wanted to keep in alignment with the Paris Agreement of keeping to 1.5 degree temperature rise, which is the only way we can avoid these sort of catastrophic fires and the flooding of low-lying islands. And again, it's the communities who've done the least to contribute to the climate crisis who are suffering the most. We, as the Rockefeller family, there are almost 300 of us now in 7 generations, of course feel a special moral obligation to try to counteract the damage that the source of our family wealth has created. And we do that through our personal spending decisions. You can do that through your philanthropy, through your political giving. And we realized, and your investments, of course, as well, and that is where the Rockefeller Brothers Fund has divested from fossil fuels, and several individual members of our family as well. The next piece of it is banking. because $1 in $10 that you think is just sitting in a bank, you don't think about what it's doing, is actually funding the fossilized economy. So it's undermining what we're trying to do with our philanthropy and our personal spending. That's why we started BankFWD, and the way it connects to the EPA decision is that what banks kept telling us as we met with major Wall Street banks, we need federal regulation. We need our peers to be held to the same standard. We have plans and commitments and things that we want to do, but we really aren't going to be able to do so unless there's, again, this equal playing field. And at this point, I'd have to say, if the banks really do want those regulations, as they told us, they should be commenting and they should be fighting against this Supreme Court decision. If they have not done that yet, frankly, and what we're hoping is what they'll feel special pressure, as we in the Rockefeller family do, to do even more to regulate ourselves, to do even better ourselves, because the transition to a clean energy economy is actually going to create jobs. It's going to be better for everybody. It's more financially responsible as well as morally and environmentally so. So this just puts more pressure on the private sector to step up.
I'll give you the last word. I know that BankFWD co-authored a report that links banks and corporate gas emissions. Can you just briefly break down that for us?
Yes, absolutely. What it discovers is that the money and cash that companies hold in banks is their largest source of emissions for all of the big 10 tech companies. The cash they have is used by banks to continue financing fossil fuels. And the numbers are stark. You can see that Salesforce's emissions are 91% higher when you factor in their banking. Google's are 111% and of their normal emissions. PayPal's is over 5,000% higher. Microsoft's is 94% higher. This is a very powerful way that companies can work on this by engaging with their banks and telling them to hold the companies in their portfolio accountable to meet the Clean Power Plan standards, even without federal regulation.
Those numbers are pretty startling. Valerie Rockefeller, Vanessa Fajans-Turner, thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.